Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Ladies and gentlemen, there's something we need to understand about ourselves. We are social creatures. We like to get together with our family. We like to have friends in for dinner. We like to go out to eat in restaurants. We like the pleasure of just getting together with other people, to go to sporting events, to go to football games, to go to all this stuff. Now we can't do that. As a result, the number of people committing suicide has gone up dramatically. The number of cases of domestic abuse has gone up dramatically. And all this business of being socially quarantined is really hurting us. But we hear about the cases of people who have the disease, who are dying, but we don't hear so much about the people who are in their homes suffering with some kind of depression, and the violence that's taking place, violence against spouses, violence against children, is rising dramatically. And we need to do something about it. But the crisis of COVID-19 has been ravaging nursing homes. Could the deaths be far worse than reported, especially in New York? And does Governor Andrew Cuomo have something to hide? As Charlene Aaron reports, families and lawmakers are demanding answers.
The official COVID-19 death toll in nursing homes across New York stands at 6,600. But that number may be far greater because the state only counts residents who died on nursing home property and not those who died after being transported to hospitals. For Fox News meteorologist Janice Dean, the stats on COVID-related nursing home deaths are personal. Earlier this year, she lost her elderly in-laws to the virus.
So coronavirus happens. We're not allowed to see them. We didn't know his dad was ill at all. We were getting updates from the nursing home, regular updates. And one Saturday morning, we get an update the end of March saying, your dad's not feeling well. And 3 hours later, they call us back and tell us he's died. His mom was in the assisted living residence. And several days later, she got ill. And she had to be brought to the hospital, and they diagnosed her with coronavirus, and she just, died a few days later.
New York Governor Andrew Cuomo says his state has only 20% of COVID deaths from nursing homes, compared to 68% in Pennsylvania, 64% in Massachusetts, and 44% in New Jersey. The controversy began in March when Cuomo mandated recovering coronavirus patients be placed in nursing homes. This despite the availability of the Navy hospital ship Comfort, 2,500 hospital beds set up inside the Javits Convention Center, and the field hospital set up by Samaritan's Purse. Many say the policy led to thousands of possibly preventable deaths across the state. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul wants Cuomo removed from office.
Governor Cuomo ought to be impeached for the worst public policy, public health decision, maybe in a century, sending patients with coronavirus back to nursing homes.
Despite multiple calls for an independent investigation, the governor's still refusing as recent as last week.
No, I wouldn't do an investigation. I think you'd have to be blind to realize it's not political. Just look at where it comes from and look at the sources and look at their political affiliation.
The New York State Legislature wants answers and recently invited families whose loved ones died in elder care facilities to testify. During those hearings, lawmakers also grilled State Health Commissioner Howard Zucker for failing to report the actual number of COVID deaths in nursing homes.
Your administration's definition truly misrepresents the true scale of this crisis in our nursing home. Let's try and get the full picture here and now. How many of New York's nursing home residents died in hospitals?
I'm not prepared to give you a specific number.
Meanwhile, Dean believes she was disinvited from the public hearing because of her affiliation with Fox News. Regardless, she says all the families affected deserve answers.
I would like a 9/11 style commission hearing because it's not only New York. There are several other states that did the same thing, putting coronavirus patients into nursing homes. So, listen, that's my hope. I don't know if that'll ever happen. But my argument is, Governor Cuomo, what do you have to hide?
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Oh, there are going to be plenty of scandals and plenty of cover-ups because the death toll worldwide is coming close to 1 million. We've had worse pandemics before, flu, and of course, when you got the Black Death during the Middle Ages, it wiped out over half the population. It was just horrible. Well, there's good news on the medical front, though, in the fight against COVID-19. Even though the numbers keep getting worse, Wendy Griffin has more about that.
That's right, Pat. The death toll nationwide has now passed 170,000. And 5 states have set new records for weekly deaths. But the FDA has approved a new saliva test for COVID-19 developed by Yale University. It's simpler and less expensive, as little as $10 per test, which will invariably increase testing capacity. Meanwhile, a New York Times report says new research is offering hope. Unpublished studies say patients who've had mild cases of the coronavirus show signs of developing strong long-term immunity. Those studies are still being reviewed, but experts commissioned by the Times call them promising and exactly what you would hope for. Well, violence is rocking America's cities as protesters continue to push for defunding the police. And some city councils are complying. Crime rates are shooting sky high. George Thomas has the latest.
From Los Angeles to New York City, from Philadelphia to San Francisco, the movement to defund police departments across the country is growing. This as at least 12 other cities also brace for severe budget cuts not seen in more than a decade. The result, some say, is a spike in violence nationwide. Days after the city council in Austin, Texas, voted to slash $150 million from the police budget, 3 Cedar Park police officers, a suburb of the city, were shot on Sunday after a man barricaded himself with 3 of his family members.
I visited them in the hospital along with their families. They are all in stable condition and doing well.
The state's governor warning the cuts in police funding will pave the way for lawlessness. In Chicago, new video emerges showing a violent confrontation between Black Lives Matter protesters and police.
This group changed their appearance and began pushing our officers and eventually assaulting them.
One protester allegedly hitting a police officer repeatedly with a skateboard. The mayor of Chicago saying the attack on police officers was planned and that protesters came looking for a fight.
We are absolutely not going to tolerate people who come to these protests looking for a fight and are intending to injure our police officers and injure innocent people.
Authorities in Chicago now monitoring social media sites for threats against officers and businesses.
What we want to do is expand our capacity in this space of looking at intelligence on open source.
And it's not just in Chicago. Violence now erupting in other major cities across the country as well. In New York City, more than 24 shootings in less than 48 hours. In Philadelphia, a mass shooting at a block party injures 3 teens and 2 others. Shots were also fired at police officers. 60 shell casings from several weapons were found on the scene, including rounds from an AR-15. On Sunday in Cincinnati, 18 people were shot, 4 killed in 4 different incidents.
Horrific and tragic that we have this much violence and potential for that much loss of life in our city.
All this happening as a new study shows violent crimes on the rise nationwide. Murder rates in 20 major cities spiking by 37% between May and June of this year. George Thomas, CBN News.
Pat, this is very serious. What do you think?
I think that the whole move to defund the police is brought about by people who want to destroy our country. And the trouble is city councils are yielding to the mob instead of yielding to their intelligence. And the mob is ruling in city after city after city. And it's shocking the numbers of people who are being killed, the violence that's taking place. And the one thing you do when you have that much trouble is to beef up the people who are standing against the trouble. Instead of that, the city councils in city after city after city across America are taking money away from the police. In New York, $1 billion being taken out of the police budget. Just think of that. In the middle of a crisis of people who want to destroy the governmental structure of our nation, and the cities are being laid open wide to terrible violence, the worst violence we've ever seen, and it's being orchestrated by Antifa and these other groups like Black Lives Matter, which are trying to destroy America. That's their open-ended goal. They want to destroy the freedoms we have in America and lay us subject to a socialist dictatorship. And the amazing thing is we have one particular party, a political party, that is in favor of defunding the police, in favor of some of these rioters, and is not speaking out openly against them. And you say, why can't we get together as Americans to understand there's an evil in our society that needs to be squelched? And it won't be squelched by taking away the weapons we have to control it. Well, that particular party is getting ready to have a virtual convention right now, and Wendy can tell us about it.
They are indeed, Pat. Democrats open their national convention tonight. The virtual event features speakers from across the country. Former First Lady Michelle Obama will deliver the keynote. Others include progressive standard bearer Bernie Sanders and former Ohio Governor John Kasich, a Republican. The four-night event is anchored in Milwaukee, but due to COVID-19, only a small contingent will be on site. And you can follow the nightly coverage on our website, that's cbnnews.com. Well, high heat and lightning are fueling major wildfires across California. The Loyalton fire has burned at least 20,000 acres. Thousands of people are under evacuation orders. This just one of dozens of fires consuming the state in the middle of a massive heat wave. Over the weekend, power officials declared an emergency, temporarily cutting power to hundreds of thousands of customers to protect the power grid. And speaking of those high temps in Death Valley, Pat, the high was 130 degrees Sunday, possibly one of the 3 highest temperatures ever recorded on planet Earth.
Global warming? I'm telling you, that's hot. 120 degrees, the highest ever recorded on Earth? This is shocking. Whew. Terry.
That's why air conditioning was the best.
Well, you know, fortunately, it's a little cooler. We live in a wonderful part of the world. I mean, instead of going up, temperatures in our area, Virginia Beach, have gone down to a nice, comfortable in the 70s, and it's very comfortable.
It is now. It's been a little warm for some of us.
It's been warm, but now the Lord
summer.
just keeps
Summer
blessing us. If I'm being blessed, I'm not going to complain about it.
That's right.
I am rejoicing in the goodness of the Lord.